Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this game called Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. It has the name of one of the longer stories. I think it might be a short novel called Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. It was released today. I just got the notification like 30 minutes ago, so I decided let's install it and stream it immediately. Apparently, it's supposed to support both controller and keyboard. So I'm going to try with controller first. And I have no idea what to expect because... oh, it says here. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on a story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along the plot. So it seems to be more of a visual novel of Dagon. Dagon, I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't read it. You should read it. It's a damn good one. And we will be this ordinary guy who will...
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Damn, it's fucking loud. Just a moment. Voiceover was way too freaking loud. I want to be able to speak over it. I actually almost got a headache from that one. I think about 50% should be good enough. There we go. Let's resume. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. I'll just reveal interesting facts about the original short story. Okay, it was a short story. I read it, but it was like 10, 15 years ago. Its historical background and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find them, these secrets focus your eyes and look for the Elder Sign. You can also access all the found facts later. They will be available in the main menu. And the controller doesn't work. Oh no, that's it. Okay. That's something. Okay, so I'm writing like my final will and testament, I guess. Have a look around, see if we can find an Elder Sign. The original Elder Sign was something completely different.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Oh, I'm going to defenestrate myself. Interesting choice, I would say.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
That's the thing. What was that? Oh, that's another thing. Morphine. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War from 1861 to 65 and World War I, 1914 to 18. It was also sold without restriction until 1914. I did not know that. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Serturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after the Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as the soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Morphine took over after opium, and opium was very, very commonly grown, for example, in the Victorian era, by private individuals.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Oh, I can look around a lot. At the same time, can I do like... Oh, okay, I can do... Oh, the mouse control is really bad. Ah, look at that over there, and that's a German ship. Kaboom! And the boom boom!
The Great
Boom
War
goes the
was then
dynamite.
at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
You know what? I'm actually going to share this in a few servers before I continue. Let's see now. We'll do it like... let's see now. So, wow. Wow, wow. Wow. Shit, my eyes are like going... I'm going cross-eyed right now. There we go. And I think there might be another one here. It's now self-promotion. There's supposed to be a self-promotion. There we go. Okay. Done. And let's see now. So that one else have that. Aha. There we go. And let's see, do they have anything like that in this? Yes, they do. Right, so I did some promotion for myself there for a moment, for a hot minute, while we continue the story. All right. The Great War was then at its very beginning. Oh, you're right. It takes place during the First World War. Let's see. What can we see? Oh, I love the way things look. Oh, I'm aboard a German ship, apparently.
So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Ah. Oh. Oh. The Huns, which was the name many used for the Germans during World War One, or what were they called? Well, in the World War Two we called them the Axis, but the Austro-Hungarian and German empires, they were called the Huns or the Bosch. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD under Attila the Hun. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors, masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weaponry. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II, the Kaiser, gave a speech to his troop on the 27th of July 1900, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and custom of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Hey, Alice Majors, welcome to the stream. Nice to see you. It was a long time ago. How are you doing?
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Oh, did I know? Oh, so that... I'm escaping! I'm escaping.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Yeah.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Somewhere south of the equator.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
If we're south of the equator, I do not know the stars, so I don't even have to look up. Oh, that's the moon. More stars. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Southern Hemisphere's constellations, though. Just gotta say that immediately. I have no freaking idea. That's the moon. I have been alright. Good to hear. And how's your doggo doing? How's... Ghost? Was it?
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to say I haven't been doing too well, but things are getting better. Slowly and safely. Blah, blah, blah. Life happened. Lots of shit happened. I lost my father. Had some bad experiences privately. Other than that, with like family and kids involved, but now I'm back. Hopefully, I'm getting there.
Neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh! Okay, that's bad. And also, your dad took Ghost to Florida? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I remember Ghost being really a lovely, lovely boy. And thank you. Well, it will get better. It's only been it's been a rough, like, ever since COVID started, it's been very rough, let's put it like that. But it's getting better now. I've gotten help from shrink and friends and relatives, so I'm getting there. You know, small steps.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
Oh, I forgot the fact that they are actually using direct quotations from the story now, and it's incredible. Lovecraft had such a vocabulary. It's wonderful.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
Oh boy.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Also, right now, it's an important time of the year for me. The most important, because it's Oktoberfest. Therefore, well, I'm not sponsored or anything, but I'm drinking Hofbrau Oktoberfest beer.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, Lovecraft, like most of the people of his time, were a bit racist. He had the cat with a funny name. Even so, he wasn't as bad as some of the other people. But he was really good. Yeah, I agree with you. He was really good at creating the unknown. And he is the father of the cosmic horror genre. Tentacle porn. Unwittingly. And even now, I mean, growing up in the far north of the world, I remember as a child looking up at the sky, you know, with the aurora borealis, and you could basically see every single star in the sky, more or less the Milky Way in itself. It was, in a way, I would say it was terrifying and fascinating as hell. There's the boat. Just have a quick look. Oh, yeah, I knew it, I knew it. The origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake, supernatural horror in literature, H.P. Lovecraft, and Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. And that's also interesting in a way because back when this was written, racial theory was a thing. It was a big thing. So talking about half-breeds and racial mixes and everything, it was normal. Well, based and inspired by his own fears, it is absolutely amazing how he used it. Oh yeah, it is. It's incredible what he made, and I'm so happy that he didn't fall into obscurity like so many other authors did of that time. I dreamed that whole hideous crawl, and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from an aversion to fish and sea smells. In his own words, I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old. But I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Von Dry. And I kind of understand him because the sea is a scary freaking place in general. I grew up inland, so fish in general is kind of taboo to me because it's unusual. I can eat the salmon and stuff like that, maybe cod and pike, but that's it. I've never been a fan of seafood. I've been a sailor. I hate being on the ocean. I prefer solid land under my feet. I don't like flying either, so, I mean, I'm a bit weird. Oh, holy fuck, it's a trilobite with a smile. Dude, you're not supposed to be around. You died out in the Cambrian era about like 300 million years ago. Jesus. You're not a horseshoe crab? Go away. Also, stop smiling.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
I can do sushi, but tuna I can accept. It's a little bit of a boring fish in itself, but tuna I'm okay with. Shrimp, yeah. Give me a shrimp, fine. Crab, I'm so-so with. Can do some crayfish, though, or crawdads. It's okay.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
We're probably too far away from land, dude. Seafowl tend to be close to a beach or a land, so nope. The stars are not right. Oh, holy shit. There's tentacles above me? Ugh.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
The only thing I can't eat with sushi is eel. Also, don't know how people... Okay, let me tell you about oysters. Because I kind of like oysters. I learned how to eat it. And it was the weirdest shit ever that I found out that I did enjoy them. So you have a chuck oyster, so you have the shell open. And you have a small knife and you remove it from the shell. You add some Tabasco and some lemon and some onions on top. And you just swallow that bitch down, full in everything. And yeah, the consistency is a little bit like snot. But at the same time, it's a very hearty and very flavorful because you don't really chew it that much. I usually gave them a small chew before swallowing just to release some flavor, but they're just snot. They are completely pointless, to be honest, in itself, because you mostly just taste the tobacco, you taste the onions, and you taste the lemon. But by biting a little bit, I actually got some like shellfish flavor to it, which helped. Combine that with some champagne. It was damn good, but honestly, I could have just had a salty thing like caviar with Tabasco and onions and lemon and had the champagne anyway. I gang at the texture. Completely understandable that you gang at the texture because it is disgusting in a way. Really. Just a moment, I got a message here. Just gonna double check. Oh. Yeah, that was from my sister. I just had to take that. Oh, thank God my sister didn't have to go in. My sister is heavily pregnant right now and has some health issues at the end of her pregnancy, and I've been like checking up with her every like 6 hours for the past week now. She's like the only relative I have left in my life, so that's why I'm keeping track of her. For several hours, I sat thinking about the brew. Yeah, sure.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Apparently, this story sounds like a combination of Dagon and the Call of Cthulhu. Oh, she has like 2 weeks left. 2 weeks left! So, but she's suffering some end of pregnancy problems, complications. And she just wrote me that everything is fine. I was at the checkup. She has been like in the hospital for the past 2 weeks. And now it's like, it's fine. On the one hand, I wanted her to like go back to the hospital so they could artificially start labor so she could get the kid out. But they wanted to go naturally, which I understand, and it's best for the child, of course. So I'm just hoping for the best now. Apparently, she's doing good right now. She's going back on Monday. Okay. So my supplies. Supplies! Wait. Those stars look very much like the Belt of Orion, but I can't see the rest of the stars, so they might have cheated a little bit on this star chart. And what they're hinting at right now is like the rising of Lilith, which is, or however it is pronounced, which is incorrect if we're in the southern hemisphere. Like, this, I think, if I remember
On the
correctly.
third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
To boldly go where no man has gone before. Oh, it's the horizon. Let's have a look around just to see if we don't miss anything. No. Man. Yeah, this is definitely... This reminds me of Iceland in a way. When I look at the geography.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Oh, what the hell are those things? What the fuck is that? Now, that is a wild, weird dream creature of the Great Beyond, and that looks like the top of an arachnid from Starship Troopers. Ugh. Yep, I think we are at Clandathu. That looks like a killer whale. Kind of, sort of, some kind of whale thing. But these things, oh my god, it's disgusting! Ugh.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
No, it's definitely closer. We can see the hill now. Oof. Things be scary, yo. Oh yeah, that's that thing. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, there it is. Horrors of the Ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Relia was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because of the water pressure would make it uninhabitable, which is an understandable hypothesis back then. We have proven that wrong now in modern times. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, that is, so far, is the Mariana snailfish, which can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness and at hellishly crushing pressure. Hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. And sometimes when you bring those creatures up, they kind of explode because they can handle the lack of pressure. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures, such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. Well said, authors. There's the hillock.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Gotta say now, if we have a one person narrating a game, it has to be Sean Bean. Everybody knows that. It has to be Sean Bean. I'm a little bit disappointed, developers.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Even though they have a good narrator
I know
here.
not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Okay, that's the continuation of the story. I just need to take a quick break. I just have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Okay. That's what happens when you drink a beer in the afternoon on a Friday. You gotta pee a lot. Let's see now. Just making sure that's something. Nope. Okay. Everything's fine. I'm possibly expecting a call, so.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon. Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
Wonderful analogy here. Really wonderful. If you speak like literature-wise, oh my god. Really good description of the world. Very world-building.
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Let's have a look around. Nothing I can do. Those cliffs are kind of frightful. There we go. That's the other one.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Declivity? I don't even know what that means. That's like the first word I don't know. Sorry, I gotta check this. Declivity. A downward slope. Okay. Not being a native speaker, I'm sure even native speakers would have problems with that word. So I need to check some. I need to check a dictionary at times. Because, as I said, Lovecraft uses a lot of interesting words.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Look.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Well, at least it's Euclidean.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Honestly, if you're in the middle of like the southern hemisphere, in the middle of frickin' nowhere, you land on an island that suddenly appeared, and this monstrosity shows up, which I've experienced in another game. It's kind of terrifying when you think about it, because yes, nature is funny in a way. There are, like in Ireland, there's a hexagonal or somewhere between like hexagonal to octagonal um, stones that are like perfectly like shafts like this, like rods in the ground, and some of them actually rose up, and that's from volcanic thing. But I've never heard of a perfectly natural square in itself, like rising from the ground from an volcanic activity or a temporary island or anything like that. From what I've read, at least, I might be wrong, but I'm just saying.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
Okay, that is a frightful thought. Really?
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
One thing that I enjoy about Lovecraft is the constant repetition of facts or things that show up in different stories, which kind of binds or creates the world more and more. Like the continuation of using the Necronomicon as a thing in the stories, Ansprechlichen Kulten or Arkham or Cthulhu or any of the other outer or elder gods being mentioned. Everything comes back over and over again, which kind of like creates a truth in itself.
The moon, now near the zenith,
Nice water.
shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith.
Look at those markings. My archaeologist side is going like, oh my god, this is so fascinating. At the same time, I was like, okay, this is fucking dreadful.
On whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Okay, let's have a closer look at the monolith.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
First of all, yeah, never mind.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
Alright, minor thing, not octopi, it's octopuses, because octopus is a Greek word, not a Latin. At the same time, marvel at the incredible, delicate and intricate detail of the sea creatures. Some of them, whenever this was inscribed, like turtle and some of the shark species, would not even exist when it was done, so that would mean that they would see to the future. The middle part, this is not hieroglyphs, this is pictograms. It's horrifyingly well done, in a way. Holy shit.
Several characters obviously represented marine things
Cthulhu.
which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Here we go, middle part. Storytelling methods. Oh, that's what I was talking about a little bit. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, which is one of my favorites, and the Nameless City. Journals and characters' notes, like The Shadow Out of Time and The Haunter in the Dark. Islands emerging from the ocean, which only happens in the Call of Cthulhu. Or fictional beings or deities based on real events and mythologies, which he was a very well-read man in that respect. Probably his very life of isolation, especially his young life, caused that. Like the Mi-Go in The Whisper in the Darkness. Also a really good film with Jeffrey Combs, if you can see it. It's a black and white recreational movie. It's really great. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon. Well, let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending, but I already know the ending because I've read it, so let's not spoil that. But they usually have a same thing, which is very common in cosmic horror.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
Once more, another word. New word, sorry about this. What is a... Okay, so it's a semi-pure alloy. There we go. Learn something new now.
I think that these things were
At least a certain sort of men.
though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
They are the deep
Paying
ones.
homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Oh my god, those faces! Woo!
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Neanderthal we all know about, so which is like Homo sapien neanderthalensis, or just Homo neanderthalensis, which was around like it originated like 2.6 million years ago until about 11,000 years ago when they died out. But the Piltdown man, I don't remember entirely. Oh, right. The Piltdown man was actually a hoax, but at the time, it was considered like one of the human ancestors that died out like 500,000 years ago. As far as I know, it's a hoax. Or was a hoax. Or just misinformation or misunderstanding, misinterpretation by scientists. And people wanting to be famous.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
That's a deep one.
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh yeah, I would flip out if I saw that.
Then,
Yeah, exactly. I would flip out. Really. Woo!
of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Yeah, I can see madness taking me. And the story I was thinking about was Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a different one.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Hey, nothing weird in itself. I mean, you're going nuts.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Ah. The journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the worlds of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which kind of fits his general personality, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. He was an avid letter writer. Howard, the author of the Conan series, was a skilled wordsmith, but he was also, I have to say, even though he wrote Conan and other other stories, he was a really great poet. But he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again, for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this sample excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have been miraculously changed. That is very, very much a discussion of the Cold War, in my opinion. Or foreseeing the Cold War.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. That I knew, actually. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as their patron saint of the war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. And I think I actually have a hoodie from the Esoteric Order. Yeah.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Okay, nothing else, but there we go. Book. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. Derleth did a lot of good, but also a lot of harm to the Cthulhu Mythos in itself. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works throughout his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine, which is completely wrong. Derleth himself was a devout Catholic, to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Exactly. Derleth did a great disservice to anyone who is a fan of the Cthulhu Mythos or any story of Lovecraft in general. Okay, that's the exit.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Okay, nothing else. Let's overdose then.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink, and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near.
Oh?
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh, it sounds so slimy.
It shall not find me. God, that hand!
What's deep one hand?
The window! The window!
Let's just double check. Just checking if there's anything else. There we go. Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We'd appreciate it if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Yeah, but they are not released yet. Well, they were not released. Oh, they are released now. Okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look here. The Eldritch box is available, but not the little glass bottle DLC. So, what's this? Eldritch box. Ebook version of Dagon. Ebook version of the Fish Head. Audiobook version of Dagon. Audio version of Dagon, including additional sounds from the game. Official wallpaper. That's not anything interesting, dudes. I'm sorry. The little glass bottle. What's that? It's coming out later this year. If I buy this, I help them out in the future. Get a glimpse of Lovecraft's mind at 7 years old. Embark on an adventure during your coffee break. The game can be completed in less than 10 minutes. Learn interesting facts about the author's own childhood. Experience Lovecraft's short stories through a full voice 3D game. Support our future narrative projects. Okay. Well, that's it. I'm going to leave some feedback on this game. I liked it. Definitely did. It could have been a little bit longer, guys. Less than an hour is not okay. You're going, yeah. I'm happy that it didn't ask you to pay for it, because an hour is nothing. That is not going to give you anything. And I missed quite a lot of trivia, apparently. Maybe that's something that's unlocked through the Tales of Herring and Lake. It comes out in December 1st. Investigation and Fishing. Welcome to Tales of Herring and Lake, where your favorite Sunday fishing show meets Alfred Hitchcock. Grab your gear and start shaping your story. Okay, that's some weird shit. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching, and do take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you all later, okay? Bye-bye!